Sterling had said that Petr Yan didn't know the rules and he was a champion, and that's wrong of him to be a champion and not know the rules. But then Sterling had said something about, he didn't know he was going to get the belt, so it wasn't planned per se. And Big John was like, well, if you knew the rules, you'd know you would get the belt. Which, I mean, I guess it's kind of a jab more than it was like actual fact. But It's like, I didn't know that either. It's like I talked about this with Javier on the first episode, but I had no idea either. It's like there's a lot of rules in this sport now.
Yeah, there's a lot of different situations, and I think we see it a lot recently. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, and sometimes it depends on what rounds it in or what round it happens in. A lot of that stuff, I have no problem saying, like, honestly, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I just fight and try not to break the rules that I do know. And every once in a while you see some weird one pop up and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's good to know.
It's a kind of old headline because I talked to Hav about it. But just real fast, it wasn't on my list here. What do you think about that as far as him getting the belt from Yan over a disqualification like that? And then what do you think about how he's handling it afterwards? Just your opinion.
Yeah, see, those are two completely different issues, right?
Yep.
I was good with the way that it went. I was very, very critical of the referee, as I always am. Sometimes I feel like I do put a target on my back sometimes from the referees because I'm very critical of them, and it's not in a way that's disrespectful. I'm not attacking them. I'm just holding them to the fire sometimes on some of these decisions, and I've been in that exact same situation with Jon Jones, and it's everything happens so fast, and I understand that as a referee, you don't expect you're expecting this incredible title fight, and then all of a sudden shit goes crazy, and you're kind of thrown off. I get that, but I think that on shots like that, I think the referee needs to be, what's the word I'm looking for, a little bit more decisive.
Yeah.
You can't leave it in the fighter's hands because, the Aljo situation is a little different, but you take that out of it. I got up to my feet as fast as I could because I didn't want Jon Jones to think I was hurt. That's what was going through my mind. I wasn't thinking about titles or wins or losses. Fighters fight.
Right.
Whether we're hurt, blinded, rocked, unconscious, it doesn't matter. We're gonna fight. That's my instinct. So, although I am very happy that it went the way that it went, I was able to continue. And although I didn't leave there with the title, I left there with my pride.
Right.
And I left there with the respect of the masses and my peers. You see me on the analyst desk. I have my radio show. I'm on lots of podcasts, and nobody ever checks me.
Yeah.
Nobody tries to come at me about stuff because they respect me because I live that life. I've done it. I've said things like, this is who I am as a person. Here's who I am as a man. And this is who I am as a fighter. And I've proved that time and time and time again.
Absolutely.
So because of that, I do have the respect and I do have the ability to maybe, I don't have people coming at me all crazy because they're like, you know what, that's Anthony Smith. He lives that life. He has the right to say some of those things. I just wish the referees wouldn't leave that in our hands. I think that those rules need to be a little bit more stringent. You take a really hard cup shot, I think that gets lost in a little bit. Like Glover Teixeira hit me with an uppercut right to the nuts. And it just wasn't the same after that. Right. That's just how it is.
Of course.
I'm not saying Glover should have been DQ'd, but I think that we need to have a little bit, I feel like the referees are too afraid to take the heat. I think they pay attention too much to Twitter. And guys like Jason Herzog, phenomenal ref, but he doesn't give a shit what anybody says about him. He makes a decision, and even if it's wrong, sometimes he stands by it, and he makes the conscious effort to be better the next time. Wow. Keith Peterson's the same way. That guy doesn't care what anybody says about him. He's there to do the best job he can. He doesn't care what anybody says. He makes the decision, and he stands by it.
Right.
Some of these other guys are a little bit inconsistent. So on the other side of that, I like Aljo. We got the same manager. We've had dinners together. He's a great dude, but I do wish that there was someone close to him, maybe helping him guide his way through this media thing. Because
I agree.
Media is hard.
Yeah.
Media is very hard, and it's hard.
Fans are hard.
It's hard to do the right thing. It's hard to say the right thing. Sometimes you just want to be emotional and react, and everything that comes out of your mouth, everyone can twist and turn, and so you got to be very, very careful. And I understood the whole, celebrating with his family, and he did have people in town, and you do kind of got to play that part and be happy because everyone else is happy, or pretend to be happy. But, the Henry Cejudo thing really rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Just some of the things that he says, and it's just like, Aljo, listen, man, we get it. You're one of the best fighters in the world.
Absolutely.
But right now, you have to sit down and shut up.
Just chill.
And you got to go in there. You got to chill. You got to no one should see you anywhere with that belt.
Yeah.
No one should see your face all over the media. No, you just got to sit down. You got to train your ass off, fix the problems you had in that fight, because there was a lot of them. And then you got to go in there and you got to earn it. You go in there and you beat Petr Yan, and all this goes away. But you got to focus on that.
Right.
So that's how I look at it, because I think that's how I would do it. I would never hold that belt. You'd never see it in a picture. DC said something very similar to that, as when they took the belt off of John Jones for the failure and gave it back to DC. He said that he didn't carry it, he didn't wear it, he didn't want to take pictures with it, and I think we don't hear anything about that with DC. No one's ever saying like, oh, DC was a fake champ, or he's this or that, because he acted accordingly.
Right.
I'm not the champion. Maybe I do have the belt, but I still need to go in here and I need to earn it. And I think if Aljo took that approach, I think it'd be a lot different.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think what could be happening too is, like, my first few fights in the UFC, luckily the fans weren't too critical, but I acted a lot more cocky than I should have, because I'm a very humble guy, and like I don't try to be cocky. Even now, people look at my Instagram and they think I'm cocky, but I'm selling a gym. I'm selling a lifestyle. I'm 41 years old. I'm selling that I'm in shape. You know what I'm saying? It's not that I'm trying to be cocky. I'm just trying to, I'm inspirational to a lot of people. But in my first few fights in the UFC, I seem kind of cocky because some of the guys from The Ultimate Fighter, or all of us actually, for the most part, from the fans and the fighters in the UFC, we were looked upon as guys that didn't deserve to be in the UFC. And we were looked upon as guys that got an easy way in. And so we had to prove ourselves. And so every time I won a fight, I won 5 in a row, I wanted to throw that back in their face. But when you're publicly talking to a microphone on TV, you're talking to not them, you're talking to the world. And the world's hearing what you're saying, and they don't know the backstory. They don't know who you're talking to. So, it could be with Aljo, he's reading a lot of comments and talking to those guys, which you should ignore those guys, and they maybe have an effect on him as well. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, like, if you're going to say you don't deserve the belt or you don't want it, act that way afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, kind of be humble about it, and people will respect you more. That being said, I also think it should be a case-by-case basis, kind of, to some degree. I know it's hard to judge, but when you take such a hard blow like that, they've questioned even interviewing a fighter after a fight, when he's taken a knockout or he's concussed or something like that. Aljo could have very likely been concussed. To leave the fight in his hands and ask him if he should continue, like you, for instance, you're such a fighter, you're going to say, yeah, but you could be destined to lose that fight because of that. Of course it's going to change the fight. 100% it's going to change the fight. There's no doubt about that. How much? That's the question. And if you say you're ready to fight, I don't think it should be up to you. It should be up to maybe the corner, or definitely the ref and the doctor, maybe a replay or something. So I think that should be also another thing that should have happened, as well as asking the fighter a lot of times after certain things, because a lot of times fighters are going to continue, and they might not should continue. This didn't happen in this case. I was just bringing this point across because I've seen it happen before.
Yeah. Mark Montoya would love you for that statement. He absolutely agrees that the coaches need to make that decision, because they know the fighter better than anybody.
Yes.
So you go in there and say, all right, man, I think he's all right. I think he's where he was before. Let's keep on going. But they're going to make that decision solely based on what's good for the fighter, and we're not going to make that decision. We're just going to try to put one foot in front of the other. So I think that point right there stands out a lot to me.
I mean, we've seen so many fighters take so long to make that decision. At least at that point, you got to get somebody else. If you're asking the fighter and they're having a hard time deciding whether they should continue, you should automatically give them like 10 seconds, one question. Do you want to continue? If they're like, yes, I'm ready. Okay, good. If they're going to sit there for a minute deciding and talking and saying their head hurts, saying they're seeing double, saying things that are saying that they shouldn't continue, but then you ask the official question, how many fingers am I holding up, or whatever the case it is, and they answer that, then I think it should be someone else that answers that final call, in my opinion. We'll move on, but great insight. Great, and I agree with you 100% on that, and I appreciate your honesty.